This video is brought to you by John Robson Guitar Tuition. If you enjoy the content, please consider supporting the channel by enrolling on a course, purchasing some guitar lessons or a t-shirt, or you can join my Patreon. Now, on with the show. Hello chaps, welcome once again to John Robson Guitar Tuition. As always, I do hope you're well. Okay, it's Tuesday, which means we're doing a top 5. If you're new to the channel, we have this thing called Top 5 Tuesdays, where basically I run down a list of my 5 favourite things in a particular category. And as you've seen from the title of this video, it's my 5 favourite guitar albums of the 70s. So, let's get cracking with
Boston by Boston.
Yes, indeed. When I start doing these lists, I always start off with a massively long list, and then it's days and days and days of kind of whittling it down to 5 and changing my mind and scratching things out and going around. I did this more than most of these lists with this one because, you know, there were just so many to choose from. But there was always one album that was going to be on this list, and this is the one, oh well, a couple of albums actually, but this was right at the top of the list, and I knew I was never going to change my mind and take this off. This is an astonishingly good album. You know, for me it defines what melodic rock music should sound like. Great songwriting, fantastic production, the absolute musical genius of Tom Scholz, who was the brains behind this. I'm not sure how many instruments he played on this album, but he played many of them. Yes, there was Brad Delp on vocals and Barry Goodrow, I think, on second guitar, but there were, you know, many of the musical hats that were being worn on this album were being worn by Mr. Scholz, and, you know, just the vision and, you know, the talent to put something like this together. I believe he recorded this at home. I believe he was, you know, he kind of had his own home studio, you know, so to produce a work of this magnitude in 1975-76 in a home studio is nothing short of staggering, in my opinion. It still sounds fresh, it still sounds current, it still sounds relevant. It's a fantastic album. Go and listen to it. I'm sure you know it, but if you haven't listened to it for a while, go and listen to it again and just, you know, kind of remind yourself how great it is. So that's why that one's on the list. Next,
Dark Side of the Moon by Pink Floyd.
Yes, another one that absolutely had to be included. How can you talk about great guitar-orientated albums from the 70s and not talk about Dark Side of the Moon? It is an absolute masterpiece. It was a toss-up between Dark Side of the Moon and The Wall, but here's the reason why I chose Dark Side of the Moon. You can listen to tracks like Another Brick in the Wall, or Comfortably Numb, for example, you know, tracks from The Wall in isolation, and they are great, great tracks. You can listen to them on, you know, Rock Compilation or Planet Rock, or, you know, hear them on the radio or whatever on a Spotify playlist, and they still sound great, you know, they still work. But for me, there's something magical about the combination, the running order, the sequencing of Dark Side of the Moon, which means that when you listen to it as a whole, from beginning to end, you know, right to those final lyrics, you know, when the sun is eclipsed by the moon, even just kind of thinking about that line, I don't know why, I just get goosebumps. It just all adds up to so much more than the sum of its parts. It's genius production, genius performances, genius songwriting, an iconic album that I don't think they ever bettered Pink Floyd. Sure, you could say that The Wall is equal to this, and, you know, other albums, you know, like Wish You Were Here and so on, but I don't think they've ever bettered Dark Side of the Moon. I think it is just, in 100 years' time, 200 years' time, people are still going to be talking about this album in the same way as we still talk about Beethoven and Mozart. So there you go. That's why this one had to be on the list. Next,
Black Rose, a Rock Legend by Thin Lizzy.
Yeah, again, another album that was a bit of a toss-up between this one and Live and Dangerous. I love Live and Dangerous, but again, this is an album, a studio album. I don't have anything against live albums. There's one coming next, by the way. But this is a studio album. It just, again, it works as a cohesive whole. And, you know, it's just a fantastic album. Great songwriting. great production, from the opening bars of Do Anything You Want to Do, track 1, side 1, as I still think of it, all the way through to the fade out on the title track of this album. If you are not familiar with it, and I know it's possibly not as iconic and well known as an album like Dark Side of the Moon or that Boston album, then do yourself a massive favour and go and check it out. I'm going to link to all of these albums down in the description, so if this is one that you're not familiar with, go and check it out. Another reason why this one had to be on the list is because, of course, it features the guitar playing talents of my ultimate favourite guitar player, Mr. Gary Moore. Just his tone on this album for me is, again, I keep using this phrase, it's never been, he never bettered this tone. Sure, he had great guitar tone throughout all of his career, but just that kind of, I don't know what guitar he was using. I suspect it was a Les Paul, possibly the Peter Green one, but I may be wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong. But yeah, what a fantastic guitar tone he gets. It's just the epitome of, I think, what a Marshall amp should sound like. Great songwriting, massively virtuosic guitar playing, and just great production. Everything about this album, I love it in 10-foot tall letters, as you can probably tell, and this is why it's on the list. So there you go. What's next?
Frampton Comes Alive by Peter Frampton.
Yeah, told you we had a live album coming next, and this, I think, is one of the greatest live albums of all time. I would possibly put Alchemy by Dire Straits up on as another candidate for greatest live album of all time, but unfortunately that came out in the 80s, not the 70s, so I couldn't put it on this list. What I love about this album is just, first of all, Peter's singing. He's, I think, a very underrated singer. As I meant to say when I was talking about Gary on the last album, Gary Moore, I think he was a very underrated singer as well. But his singing is fantastic all the way through this. But it's his guitar playing that we're here to talk about. It is melodic. It is lyrical. It is inventive. It is just virtuosic, but not in a kind of shreddy, a million notes per second kind of way. It's just, he is being a musician when he's playing the guitar. He's creating music rather than playing to the gallery by, kind of doing twiddly widdly widdly guitar licks. And the great thing about this, and the thing that's really revealing, I think, is when you listen to a song that's like Do You Feel Like We Do, which has how many solos on that song? It goes on for about a fortnight. You never get the sense that he's running out of ideas. There's always some fresh musical phrase that he can just throw at you. And there's always a theme that he can develop, a motif, a hook, or call it what you want, that he can just, kind of keeping on with, and it never sounds like he's rambling or just noodling or, as I say, running out of ideas and becoming repetitive. He is just a consummate musician, I think, and this album really does showcase that. And depending upon who you believe, this album was either completely live or it was perhaps retouched a little in the studio. There's the story about how the mic on the bass drum got sort of knocked off kilter and they had to retouch that a little bit. I don't know. I know it certainly sounds like it's got that live vibe to it, and the interaction, that chemistry, that eye contact that you get between musicians when they know that they are all firing on all cylinders, and that they're producing something that is going to have a longevity and a life of its own beyond that evening's performance. Fantastic guitar album. That's why it's on the list. Next,
Layla and Other Assorted Love Songs by Derek and the Dominos.
Yeah, now this album is the one why I didn't really choose the title my favourite rock albums of the 70s, because you can't really call this a full-on rock album. If I'm being honest, this is a blues album, but it's still a great guitar album of the 70s, and yeah, it's got, I think, one of the ultimate rock anthems on it, the title track. I mean, what a song, if you like fiery blues rock guitar playing and the only exposure you've got to Layla is the song Layla, then go and check out this album. Dwayne is basically dueling guitar jamming and dueling with Dwayne Allman all the way through this album. Dwayne wasn't a member of Derek and the Dominoes. I think Eric was trying to persuade him to join the band, but he had this other band he was involved with called the Allman Brothers Band. But, you know, Dwayne did take part in the recording of this album, and songs like Have You Ever Loved a Woman and Key to the Highway, it's just some of the most electrifying blues guitar playing that you are ever likely to hear. And again, we're talking about, you know, things that have never been bettered. I don't think Eric ever played better than he played on this album. Yes, we all know that Eric has had quite a few fallow patches in his career where he was just phoning it in, paying the mortgage. You know, Wonderful Tonight springs to mind. But, you know, when he's got the bit between his teeth and the fire in his belly, you know, he's really, really rather good, it has to be said, and that is in evidence on this album. So go and check it out. Layla and Other Assorted Love Songs by Eric Clapton. If you know the album, great. If you don't, great. Or if you haven't listened to it in a while, go and check it out again with a fresh set of ears and just be astounded all over again. So there you go, folks. Those are my 5 favourite guitar albums of the 70s. And usually when I do these lists, somebody gives me a telling off in the comments section for, you should have included this, you should have included that. Well, these are my tastes. You know, feel free to have your own. You know, let me know what your 5 favourite 70s guitar albums are. I am genuinely interested to know, you know, how close or how different our musical tastes are. I have got a couple of honourable mentions for you, though, that nearly made the cut, but didn't. You know, starting with Camels, The Snow Goose. Now, great album, should be as widely acknowledged, I think, as Dark Side of the Moon. I'll link to these albums in the description as well. Go and check it out. Fantastic album. Instrumental, melodic, progressive rock. Then one that very, very, very nearly made the cut, Machine Head, Deep Purple. Yeah, again, it's just a band, I think, that were at the peak of their powers with this. Things all started going a bit sour quite soon after Machine Head and, you know, personnel changes and handbags at 40 paces and all of that. But on this album, you know, just all of the ducks were in a row, and it was, you know, I think their greatest work of that Blackmore era. And the other honourable mention that I have to talk about here is Led Zeppelin 4. You know, a great, great album. Again, another one of these albums that is just, you can't listen to one track of it out of context. You've got to listen to the whole album. And I was umming and ahhing whether to bump Layla out of the top 5 and put this one in, but Layla, for whatever reason, you know, kind of made the cut, and this one didn't. But there you go, honourable mentions. And that is pretty much the video for today, folks. Hope you found it reasonably entertaining, watching me sit here blethering away for the last, how long we've been going, 13 minutes. And if you have, please hit the subscribe button and the notification bell if you haven't already done so. And why not give me a like while you're at it. Don't forget the live stream, Friday, 5 p.m. UK time. We talk music, we talk guitars, we drink beer. What a cracking way to kick off the weekend. I would love to see you there if you can make it. But for now, I'll bid you all a good day and say thank you so much for watching. Thank you for your time. Look after yourselves, folks. Stay well, stay safe, and above all, stay sane. Bye for now.